Greetings students and welcome to ESC3701 exam preparation for the year 2022. My name is Thembeka Myende and I'll be taking you through this presentation. I'm also representing our module lecturers Dr. Ngobeni and Dr. Duplessis. The contents for this presentation are as follows. We'll first have the introduction, then discuss the assignments, followed by the examination guidelines, then the structure of the exam paper, and then we'll have a conclusion. Introduction. There were a number of outcomes you had to keep in mind during the year. You had to focus on and acquire knowledge and insights regarding the following. For philosophy of education, you had to focus on the main ideas underlying different philosophies, the main ideas underlying different philosophies of education, and what these have to say about contemporary issues and problems in education. And then the implications of the main ideas underlying the different philosophies for the philosophy of education. For sociology, we had to focus on sociology of education theories and concepts, the application of these theories and concepts to schooling and classroom practice, and then the critiques of the theories of sociology of education. With regards to assignments, at this stage, all assignments have been submitted, with the final 2 assignments currently being marked and marks being released on a staggered basis prior to the examination. We hope that you have completed and submitted compulsory assignments 1 to 4 and covered the content of the module as a unit. The general quality of the assignments submitted ranged from weak through to reasonable to good, with a select few of very good assignments showing that some students carefully followed the instructions in Tutorial Letter 101. Most of you seem to have understood the content well and were able to present the answers in a reasonably logical manner. However, because a number of you did not acknowledge your sources correctly, plagiarism was a problem that affected your marks. There are comments on assignments 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your tutorial letter 201 from page 4 to 29. Do consult these comments for better preparation for the upcoming exam. Pertaining to examination guidelines, it's very important that you note that a college decision has been made that lecturers are not to demarcate or scope specific work for examination purposes, but that examination questions must instead be based on all the work making up the 120 national hours of the modules. Therefore, students are encouraged to learn everything, as there will be no scope or no work that will be spotlighted as relevant or not so relevant. Also note that according to the Assessment Procedure Manual, no examination memoranda will be made available to students. With that said, therefore, for philosophy of education, which forms section A of the exam paper, you must study all 7 chapters of the prescribed textbook by Higgs and Smith 2017 that were covered during the year. And these are African Philosophy and Education, Empiricism in Education, Phenomenology and Education, Hermeneutics and Education, Critical Theory and Education, Postmodernism and Education, and Critical Realism and Education. So these are the 7 chapters for Philosophy of Education. For the Sociology of Education, which forms section B of your exam paper, you have to study all 4 chapters of the prescribed textbook by Siakwazi and others in 2018 that were covered for the year. And these are Theories in Sociology of Education, Practices in Sociology of Education, Citizenship Education, and Diversity and Culture in Education. Now, with regards to how to answer paragraph questions where application is required, you will be getting such questions where you need to apply theories, philosophies towards the school context or classroom practice or in education. Therefore, if we are to take one example from the October-November 2021 question paper, if we're looking at philosophy of education, which is part A, taking question 2 into consideration, which says that in short exposition, discuss the influence of the empiricism philosophy on schooling in South Africa, and this weighs 10 marks. So how would you answer this question? First, you need to understand what is it that is requested from you as a student. What is the instruction? So it says in short exposition, discuss. So when we speak of a short exposition, we are looking for a clear, detailed sort of discussion, but it should be short because we're looking at the weight of the question as well. So 10 marks would be about a pager, a one-pager. So it has to be brief but clear and comprehensive. All right. Discuss would basically mean to examine or to investigate by argument the various aspects of a statement. So discuss question words typically require an in-depth answer that takes into account all aspects of the debate or of the statement concerning the argument. Right, so you must demonstrate reasoning skills with this type of question by using evidence to make a case for or against a topic or an argument. So here we discuss the influence of the empiricism philosophy on schooling in South Africa. So we know now that the instruction is that you have to discuss clearly and comprehensively, right, in a page or so. So you're discussing what? The influence of this philosophy empiricism on schooling within South Africa. So you have to now take this philosophy empiricism and try and apply it to the schooling context of South Africa. Right, and then how do we do that? We cannot just provide characteristics or general characteristics of empiricism without applying them or linking them to the school context. We have to explain now how this philosophy can influence schooling within the context of South Africa. Right, so it's good that you know the characteristics, which include the fact that empiricism includes or involves experience, everything we know being based on what we have experienced personally through our 5 senses, the fact that it's a practical philosophy, it's concerned with things we can't know or prove, and the fact that it teaches that we are born ignorant as a blank slate and whatnot. So there's a lot of general understanding of the philosophy of empiricism, which I've just explained some of the characteristics. But then what does this have to do with the schooling context then? How do we take this this philosophy and apply it then to the schooling context? How does it influence it then? And we're speaking of the schooling context, we're not just speaking of education as a whole, which could include informal education from home, or just general education from school as well, from anywhere where people can get educated. But here we're being specific towards schooling. So this would mean right from grade 0, or was it grade RRR now, right up to grade 12. Right. So we're talking about that kind of context here because we're looking at school. So possible responses would include the fact that learning is based on what students have experienced through their 5 senses, not necessarily what they are being taught in the classroom. So you see how we're not just coming with generalizations or understanding of what empiricism is, but now we're looking at
applying this, because we're talking about learning, we're talking about the classroom, we're talking about learners or students. Right. Empiricism is a practical theory, yes. So it emphasizes the notion that students, you can even say learners to make it more specific because we're talking of schooling, but if you use students, it's still fine, we would still understand your point. It emphasizes the notion that students are born ignorant, so it means that they know nothing. Their minds are blank slates, according to John Locke. So parents and teachers must take the responsibility to make them informed adults. So for these students to know something, it means somebody has to be a knowledgeable person or a knowledgeable other in order to teach them what they know now. With yourself as well, when you went to school, it is specified here that you did not know anything apart from what you've been taught at home, obviously, because when you go to school you are about 7 years old, you should know something. But when you get to the school context, then you get to learn all these different subjects which your parents would not have taught you, right? And all that content pertaining to the different subjects. But at home, obviously, your parents, your guardians, whoever is taking care of you would play the role of teaching you what you know before you go to the school. Right, so as a child, as a baby, children are born ignorant. Right, but if we're taking this to the school context, it means that teachers have to play the role of teaching these learners what they know now. Right, so it takes others for learners to get informed or be educated. Another point would be that learners tend to focus on scientific subject matter than on literature, arts, and so on and so forth. And so this is one of the influences of empiricism, because teachers would need to teach children these scientific subjects rather than the subjects of art and literature, because empiricism is more focused on application, on experience, on practicality, and these subjects are more leaning towards that. Right. So modern science is based on empirical belief that the truth of something is confirmed or disproved by experience. So you see where I'm going with this. Right. In addition to some of the responses that have been said, a statement must be scientifically verified to be true, and it must be checked through experience. Learners are mostly likely to pursue scientific subjects. It encourages critical thinking, and is prepared to challenge authority. It's concerned about facts and facts alone. Teaching and learning can only occur in those subjects that provide humankind with real knowledge, which include maths, sciences, and engineering, according to this philosophy. Other subjects are simply worthless, according to empiricism. And then the adoption of empiricism as a basis of education means that education will be applicable to all students because it is based on universal facts and scientific truths. Right, so here we've discussed what the various stakeholders in schools would engage, or how they would engage or can be influenced by this theory. So we've discussed the influence of empiricism on learners and teachers, on parents, on subject matter. So basically covering this whole schooling notion. Right, so that is basically how you can attend to such a question. Now, if we were to take a question for sociology of education from the January-February supplementary exam, let's say question 8, right? So you'll find this from the previous exam question papers that have been issued. Neo-Marxism is an approach that uses Marxism as a base to address historical problems. Explain how Neo-Marxism interprets the role of the school in a capitalist society. Right, so we have to apply Neo-Marxism to the role of the school in a capitalist society. Right, so first you need to know what is neo-Marxism. Basically, how does this theory interpret the role of the school in a capitalist society? Now, in explanatory answers, it's important that you clarify and interpret the material you present. In such an answer, it's best to state the how or why, reconcile any differences in opinion, and where possible state causes. So that is what explaining would be interpreted here. So now we're looking at how neo-Marxism would interpret the role of the school. So what are they saying? What is their own view with regards to the role of the school in a capitalist society? And maybe just to add to that, you have to also understand what kind of society is this one. A capitalist society basically is based on people being segregated into class, social class. It's based on private ownership of the economy or means of production. It's profit motivated. There's minimal government intervention. There's competition within the economy or the market, etc. So neo-Marxists then came into the picture in the 21st century to address some of the concerns which Karl Marx or the Marxism theory could not address. Right, so they're looking at 20th century issues that are based on social institutions such as the church, such as schools, and so they use the traditional Marxist theory to bring about understanding of the modern systems, right? And so they maintain that the division between the powerful and the powerless is propagated by these social institutions, right? So now the neo-Marxists, they see schools as playing a vital role in legitimizing the inequalities in society. So they're perpetuating these inequalities within society. They regard schools as responsible for transmitting knowledge according to the power elites' interests, right? So these are the powerful people in powerful positions, mostly unseen or unknown, that play their cards, under carpet. And so these powerful elites, they have great influence into how different institutions and systems within a society operate, right? So they play their cards, or they play their pawns in instances that we would not necessarily see, right? Because they have great influence in the background. So they also play these roles in such institutions as the school. And the school is not just transmitting knowledge according to the needs of society or the needs of learners, but they have a certain agenda that they want to fulfill through schools. Have you ever thought of some of the contents or some of the subjects that are in schools? Have you ever thought maybe how useless they are, or some of the contents, how useless it is, and not necessarily speaking to the context of where it is being presented? So that is just one thing to think about, which may emerge from the agenda of these elites, and what is it that they want learners to know or to learn, which may not necessarily be what learners need, right? So certain knowledge, such as social class awareness, ethnical superiority, and gender difference, is transmitted via hidden curricula. So this hidden curricula, you wouldn't necessarily find such teachings within textbooks and teaching material and the likes, but it's pushed through a hidden curricula, which is not necessarily explicit. It's a broad category that includes unrecognized and unintended knowledge. It includes values and beliefs that are part of the learning process in schools and classrooms, but it's not necessarily explicitly stated on teaching material, right? And so all these other points, please do read on your own. I won't go through all of them due to the sake of space and time of the recording. So please do go through all these, but in a sense, the neo-Marxists are criticizing the role of the school insofar as education is concerned, and basically critiquing the power elites, their agendas, and how this in turn puts schools into a state of disequilibrium. Right. Now, to discuss the structure of the examination paper, it will be written on My Exams platform. It's an open book exam with application questions. The duration is 3 hours and the paper is out of 100. There are 2 sections. Section A is Philosophy of Education out of 50, and Section B is Sociology of Education out of 50 as well, to make 100 marks. Section A will have 6 paragraph application questions with 10 marks each. You need to choose only 5 from these. Section B as well. In both sections, you have to analyze information and apply your knowledge, and not simply copy and paste or plagiarize from the textbook. You have to demonstrate that you have acquired the required skills. Some information regarding the examination. According to your timetable, the module will be written on the 18th of October from 12:15 to 3:15, which makes it 3 hours. It will be written on My Exams platform. The system will be open from 12 o'clock, meaning 15 minutes before you undertake the exam, for you to activate the Invigilator app and then access the exam paper. But please do download the Invigilator app at least days before you undertake the exam, so that you are aware of what needs to be done. So you'll be able to download the paper and complete it offline. You have to create a Word document and then convert it to PDF before you upload it. Make sure that you upload within the 3-hour duration of the paper, and then an extra 30 minutes will be allowed for you to upload your script on My Exams. You need to familiarize yourself with the platform at least before the day of the exam. Please do take up the mock exam if you can, so that you are acquainted with how to access the exam and how to upload and all that. Use the Invigilator app during the examination for this module is compulsory. You also go through the documents that have been uploaded on the module site for you to read and understand how this app operates. Now, some hints for answering the questions. These are very important. Do consult your tutorial letter 201, page 31. These basically give you pointers for answering the questions. Please go through each and every one of these pointers. They're very important, and I believe they'll come in handy when you need to answer the questions. And lastly, in closing, we wish you every success with your exam preparations. Do persevere and take a disciplined approach to your studies to ensure that you achieve your goals. Wishing you all the best from the ESC3701 lecturers.